So now we are in our section 2 from question 5, still 2023 April, entrepreneurship and communication. So question 5A, explain 3 psychological barriers to effective communication. So psychological barriers of communication is the influence of psychology state of communicators, the sender and the receiver, which creates an obstacle for effective communication. So the state of mind of the sender as well as the receiver will always affect our communication process. And we want to have a look at some of these factors, the psychological factors, which can act as a barrier to effective communication. So number 1, lack of attention. When you're not attentive, mostly this is on the side of the receiver, because if you are the receiver and you are not attentive, that means you will not get whatever the sender is trying to say. So lack of attention, that is number 1 psychological factor, which can be a barrier to effective communication. And then poor retention. Poor retention is the ability of you to get, understand, and retain information. If you cannot retain information, if maybe you are that kind of a person who gets information and easily forgets, then that can be a very big barrier to effective communication. You need to get the information, understand it, interpret it, and then give the feedback. So if you cannot understand and if you cannot retain this information, then how will you interpret and basically give the feedback that is needed? So poor retention of the information basically can act as a barrier, psychological barrier into effective communication. And then also have distrust and defensiveness. Lack of trust, in other words, or in simple words, lack of trust is a very big barrier to communication. If you don't trust the person you're talking to, then that can make the message to either be relayed in a way that is not supposed to be relayed. Basically, because this person is telling something, but now he has that fear that once I tell this person everything, maybe it's going to leak it out, something like that. Such factors or such scenarios could make communication to be ineffective. So if you have the lack of trust or trust issues, that can affect communication process. And then you have emotions. Emotions are what you are going through at that moment in time, the feelings, the thoughts, the attitude at that moment in time can also act as barriers to effective communication. Communicating with the person who is stressed. Just an example. I'm teaching a person, but this person is super stressed and is even absent-minded. That means he or she should not be grabbing anything that I will be saying, because at that moment in time, the mind is not there. So the emotions or the feelings, the thoughts that we have could be barriers to effective communication. And then lastly, you have self-centered attitudes. A self-centered attitude is a psychological barrier that refers to an excessive focus on oneself, where individuals prioritize their needs, interests, and opinions above others. So a self-centered attitude restrains genuine listening, understanding, and empathy in communication. Yeah, because you're that kind of a person who always look at yourself first before anybody else. So sometimes the person might be addressing something good or something very serious or something that is very important, but because of such a character, such an attitude, you don't put him or her first. You just put your, maybe there's something he or she is trying to relate to you, but you're looking forward for this person to finish so that you can give your response, or so that you can give your feedback. That might make you to lose concentration and not get everything that this person is saying, just because you want him to conclude so that you can pick up from where he has left. So such an attitude can be a barrier to effective communication. So that is question 5A. And then you have question 5B, in relation to recruitment interviews. Give 3 reasons why an interviewee could be issued with a thank you letter. Why should the interviewer give an interviewee a thank you letter? just simply, number one, a sincere expression of appreciation. Thank you for setting time aside and coming to have an interview with you. That could be number one reason, a sincere expression of appreciation. Number two, it could be considered as a professional etiquette. Yeah, sometimes can be a professional etiquette, because maybe you had so many applicants and maybe many of them didn't attend, but you just have this few of them, and you stand a chance to give them a thank you letter as a way of professional etiquette, as a way of portraying professional etiquette. And then sometimes you give thank you letters just because it's a formality, or it's a rule of the organization, it's a legislation, or it's a regulation within the organization, that once people come from interview and they're done with the interview, basically offer them with a thank you letter to thank you them for their time, and for them setting time aside and coming to organization for the interviews, even if they're not so sure whether they'll be employed by the organization or not. So sometimes it's given as a formality or as a rule of the organization. So those are some of the three reasons that can make an interviewee to be issued with a thank you letter. And then we have number 5C. I think this is our last 5C. Yes, and the number 5. Analyze for essentials. Analyze for essential qualities of a good public speaker. Who is a public speaker? A public speaker is a person who does what we call public speaking, standing in front of people and giving a speech. And this person, for him to be good, or for him to be essential, he needs to have some qualities. So which are these qualities? Confidence. There's no way you can engage yourself in public speaking if you do not have confidence. You need to be a confident, you need to be a bold person in order for you to do public speaking. And then also you need to be a person who can connect with the audience. How do you connect with the audience? Sometimes you connect with the audience through eye contact and so on. Can you be able to have that focus of eye contact with these people? Focus with them, connect with them, so that they can be able to understand and get clearly whatever it is that you are giving or you're presenting to them. So connection with the audience. And then another quality, conciseness. You need to be brief and on point. Not so much information and not too little information, but be on point. Give a brief presentation to ensure that people grasp on whatever it is that you're giving them. So conciseness is another quality. Knowledge of the audience. Yes, no way you can give a speech to people whom you don't know anything about. Even if you don't know anything about, the first thing that you'll have to do when you are going for public speaking is to ensure that you do a research to know what kind of people am I going to present to, what are the kind of people I'm going to talk to, so that you come up with a presentation that will suit that particular audience. Because how you present to youngsters is not how you're going to present to matured people. Definitely the presentation will look different in terms of the language used and in terms of the examples that are going to feature in and so on. So know your target audience, know the topic that you're going to have, a good knowledge about the topic that you're going to present, because when you go there and you don't have a knowledge about the topic, then you can be rest assured that the presentation will be so bad. But at least do research, get to understand, have a good knowledge about the topic, so that when you go there, you flow from one point to the other. That can make you to be a good speaker. And organized. Yes, a good public speaker should be organized. Know how to deliver the information, not just anyhowly. Start well from introduction, go to the main story, main presentation, and then conclusion. Not mixing things up. You'll end up confusing the audience, and maybe the audience will get out of that place having not gotten anything. So these are some of the characteristics of a good public speaker. So that is our number 5. Let's meet in our next question, which will be